We are almost 3 months into the 2024-25 season, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about which teams have been the biggest underperformers so far this season. About a month ago, I created a video talking about my top 10 biggest overperforming teams so far this season. So I thought this would be a perfect time to create my top 5 biggest underperforming teams, which are teams that have been expected to perform much better than what they currently are. Obviously, if you guys agree with my list, remember to leave a comment down below. But if you disagree with my list and you think there may be another team that has been really underperforming so far this season, remember to leave your list in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to reply to every single comment. Coming in first place may shock a lot of people. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. Coming in at 5th place, I've put VfB Stuttgart. Now, Stuttgart are not historically one of the better Bundesliga teams, and throughout the last decade, for most of these years, they have been in the lower level in the Bundesliga or even in the second division in Germany. 2 seasons ago in the 2022-23 season, they finished in 16th place, and it was a pretty poor finish for them. But last season, thanks to their incredible manager Sebastian Hoeneß and some of their phenomenal players, most importantly Serhou Guirassy, who was one of the best strikers in the world last season, they had one of the best finishes in the club's history, playing Champions League football this season. But this season so far, it has not gone to plan at all for Stuttgart, and currently they sit in 11th place in the Bundesliga, and in the Champions League phase table, they currently sit in 27th place. The main problem with Stuttgart is that they have been drawing so many games this season, and we have already seen them get draws against the likes of Mainz, Wolfsburg, Hoffenheim, Ulm, and even against Bayer Leverkusen in previous weeks. Now, Stuttgart is a little bit of a controversial one because historically they aren't the best Bundesliga side, and usually they don't finish in the top 10. So 11th place actually isn't a bad position for them. But if we compare them to how they were performing last season, it is a very big drop off, and especially in the Champions League, where they have only won against Juventus, and in their other games, they have either drew those games or got defeats. They have not been performing that good this season, and that's why I put them in 5th place. Moving on into 4th place, I've put Bologna. As you all know, I do watch the Serie A a lot, and I had high expectations for Bologna this season because yes, they did lose some key players. They lost Joshua Zirkzee, they lost Riccardo Calafiori, and they also lost their manager Thiago Motta. But they replaced these players. They replaced Thiago Motta with Vincenzo Italiano, who was an incredible manager with Fiorentina. But so far this season, in my opinion, Bologna have been so shit. They have been so bad in every competition they play in. Currently in the Serie A, Bologna sit in 7th place, which isn't that big of a drop off from last season, and it's actually still pretty good. But in the Champions League, they sit in 31st place. In their first 4 games, they still have not gotten a win, and they haven't even been versing that tough teams. In the Champions League so far, we've seen Bologna lose against Monaco, they lost against Aston Villa, they lost against Liverpool, and they drew 0-0 against Shakhtar Donetsk. And to be 100% honest, in pretty much every single one of these games, they did not play good at all. This season so far, we've seen Bologna draw against Empoli, Como, Parma, Genoa. These are all teams that usually finish near the bottom half of the Serie A, and Bologna, who is a very good team, should not be drawing against these lower tier teams. For majority of the season, Bologna have been playing in a 4-2-3-1 formation or in the 4-3-3 formation. But in my opinion, the main problem is that loss of Joshua Zirkzee. I don't think they have been able to replace him with a proper striker, and that's why so many of their goals have been coming from other players like Orsolini or some of the other wingers or even midfielders. I do think Vincenzo Italiano is a good coach, and I do think Bologna will come back, but right now they have been very poor so far this season. Moving on to 3rd place, I've put West Ham United. In my Premier League predictions video, I predicted that West Ham were going to finish in the top 7. I thought they were going to have an incredible season, and I thought that Julian Lopetegui was actually going to do something with this team. But so far, he is just proving why he is not a worthy manager for one of the top Premier League clubs like West Ham United. In my opinion, this summer, West Ham United had the best transfer window in all of Europe. I think they signed some incredible players. We've seen them sign players like Carlos Soler, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Todibo, Rodriguez, Nicholas Füllkrug, Crescencio Somerville, Max Kilman. They signed so many incredible talents, top tier players. And what have these players done? Absolutely nothing. But in my opinion, it is mostly the manager's fault. Obviously, it was time for David Moyes to go. He's been at the club for so many years, but he was a good manager. He won them trophies. He won them the Conference League, and he got them pretty high finishes in the Premier League. But a lot of people thought that he was old, it's time for him to go, and that Julian Lopetegui would be able to take them to that next step. But it has been a horrible start for West Ham so far this season. Honestly, so much worse than what I expected. West Ham currently sit 14th place in the Premier League. 14th! When I predicted that they were going to finish in the top 7, they have only gotten 3 wins out of their first 11 games. They have been playing so bad. To be fair to West Ham, they have had a few difficult fixtures so far already this season, and their 5 losses so far have come against Nottingham Forest, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City, and Aston Villa, who are all very good teams so far this season and all currently sit within the top 7 range. But even in some of their games where they're reversing teams that they should have won, like against Everton, like against Brentford, like against Fulham, these are games that West Ham, with their incredible squad depth, and some of their amazing signings that they signed this summer, they should have definitely won these games. And in my opinion, it is pretty unacceptable. Moving into second place, I've put AS Roma. Roma have been so shit this season. They have been so unexpectedly poor. And in their first 12 games in the Serie A, they currently sit in 12th place. They have only won 3 games, they have drawn 4 games, and the other 5 games have all been losses. We've seen Roma lose against Bologna, they lost against Verona, they lost against Empoli, they lost 5-1 against Fiorentina, they lost 1-0 against Inter. They have been losing so many games this season. And if you look at their performances in the Europa League, it just gets even worse. At the start of this Europa League campaign, I was predicting that Roma would probably be one of the favorites to win this competition. But currently, after 4 games, they sit in 20th place, having only won 1 game, and they have been very poor in some of their other games. But it gets even worse. At the start of the season, after only 4 games, Roma sacked their manager Daniele De Rossi, and then they got a new manager, Ivan Juric, who was a pretty good manager at Torino. But after their last loss against Bologna, they sacked Ivan Juric, and now they are looking for their 3rd manager of the season after only 12 games. Right when people thought that things might be looking more positive for Roma, they go ahead and sack their manager, which in my opinion was a very poor decision. And now they're in the mud. They're in complete disarray, and I think that this is going to be a horrible season for Roma. Obviously, the lack of a stable environment in terms of the manager's situation is really affecting a lot of these players, and the fact that they're cycling from manager to manager to manager doesn't help no one. But I just think that so far this season, Roma have been going about everything wrong, about their squad formation, about which players they play, about their manager situation. I think everything has been going so wrong for Roma, and that's why I put them in 2nd place as the 2nd biggest underperforming team so far this season. And finally, moving on to 1st place, in my opinion, the biggest underperforming team so far this season, it is none other than Manchester United. Currently sitting 13th place in the Premier League, after their first 11 games, they have gotten 4 wins, 3 draws, and 4 losses. They have a goal difference of 0, and in my opinion, Manchester United are the biggest underperforming teams so far this season. Man United were incredibly lucky to play Europa League football this season after beating Manchester City in the Cup last season in the Premier League. But even in the Europa League, they have been very poor, currently sitting in 15th place, and after 4 games, they have only gotten 1 win. Manchester United have been drawing so many games this season, and in the Premier League and the Europa League combined, we've already seen them get draws against Crystal Palace, against FC Twente, Porto, Aston Villa, Fenerbahce. They have been drawing so many games this season, and one of the main reasons for that is because if they are up in a game, with how horrible their defense has been, they are not able to keep the lead. Obviously, they did bring in some amazing players, and one of those players includes Matthijs de Ligt, who I thought was a very good player. But so far this season, he has not shown anything for Manchester United. And if anything, their defense might have gotten even worse from last season. Now, Man United did recently sack Erik ten Hag, which in my opinion was a good decision because I don't think he was doing anything good for the club. And if anything, he was holding them back. And they did recently sign Ruben Amorim, who, as you would know, is one of the best managers in the world. And at Sporting this season and last season was absolutely incredible. But I think it needs more than just a manager to get this team to where they are supposed to be. I think some of the players need to go. They haven't made use of their transfer windows last year and even the year before. And I think the club in general is just a little bit of a mess. And that's why I put them in first place as the biggest underperforming team so far this season. And that is the end of this video. Those are my top 5 biggest underperforming teams so far in the 2024-25 season. If you guys agree with my list, remember to leave a comment down below. But if you disagree with my list and you think there may be another underperforming team that I should have put in this list, remember to leave your top 5 list in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to reply to every single comment. If you guys have been enjoying all the videos recently, the prediction videos, the ranking videos, remember to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. And obviously, if you did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.